Hello to all my friends out there on YouTube land. It's your good buddy Philtastic here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give you my review of Stellarlands issue number 2. But there's a couple house cleaning rules we have to get out of the way first here. I shouldn't say rules, but just some things I have to get out of the way. First and foremost, I want you to make sure that you stick to the end of this video because I have something I need you to do at the end of this video. Actually, it's not for me, it's for Max, the writer of this. We're going to get into that in a moment. And no, that thing I need you to do is not just enter the hashtag, which I'll get out of the way for you right now. Hashtag Stellar for your entry into the make Phil feel better about talking to himself in the middle of his basement and in his car contest. I think it's called something like that. Anyway, yeah, stick to the end because you'll see call to action, need your help. Point number 2, I know I'm not the first person to review this, and I know I won't be the last person to review this. I just want to let it be known that I have not watched, read, or we'll say consumed any other reviews of Stellarland issues 1 or 2 in any way, just to, you know, keep my own perspective fresh. So if I'm making some points that are brought up already, I didn't take it from anybody. It's just kind of what occurred to me. And point number 3, and really the most important of this, huge thank you to the writer of Stellarlands, the writer-creator of Stellarlands, Max Ferrata, I think I'm saying his name right, sorry if I'm not, for being patient while I put my thoughts together on this. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I've kind of been in flux with my comic reading and consuming, I guess you could say. That's a long story if you don't know what it's about, but we'll get into that another time, or you could watch another video. It's probably the best way to do it. Most beneficial to me and to you, but to me. Anyway, Stellarlands issue number 2. I was really happy when I got this because I did really enjoy Stellarlands issue number 1. I thought it was an interesting and strong female character. It was something that kept my attention and gave me kind of an unexpected twist that I wasn't expecting. And you know what? Issue 1 is a great tale about really, I would say, I don't want to say unlikely, but we'll say somebody who is presented as a hero who does things that we may or may not think of as heroic. You could go back into my channel, look for my review of Stellarlands number 1 for more information on that. Stellarlands number 2 surprised me. First, I'll be honest with you, when I started reading it, and I read it digitally, I was a little, I don't want to say disappointed, but I was a little taken back to see that we're not following that main character anymore. So I haven't asked Max. Maybe if we, you know, when we go back to live streaming, I could have Max on. He could talk about that. But I guess this is supposed to be in like an anthology type of series. And again, this is just my observation. I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth. So that might not even be Max's intention. That being said, just as the first one looked very professional and polished, like something you'd expect from, say, like a Marvel or an Image or DC. And look, I've compared indie comics to Image comics in the past, particularly the Gods Among Men, those guys at Sci Nation. I'm not saying that for every indie comic, no. I'm basically giving credit where credit is due, and here it's due, just as it was due there. Yeah, if I didn't know any better, I would think it's from one of the big 2 or Image, who technically I consider them the big 3. So very well polished. Art is great. Colors are great and vibrant, which is something I typically don't recognize in a book, but like I said, if you deserve the credit, you get the credit. The character, I have to say, the main character is equally as complex as the main character you saw in issue 1. And just like we saw in issue 1, there's a twist. Here's what kind of changes it up a little bit. And I'm talking about this without giving things away, at least I hope not. Whereas in the first issue, that first main character, who kind of reminded me a little bit at the beginning of Samus Aran from the Metroid series, if you will. Whereas you kind of felt she was great and then maybe did something not so great, despite her other shortcomings. at least in my perspective. Here, you have a character who's tough to empathize or sympathize with at first, and then the twist in here is surprisingly heartfelt. It really surprised me, and it kind of made me think, oh, okay, I misunderstood this character entirely. And I come to realize that that's the beauty of Max's style. You're getting into that character's head through their actions, not through their words necessarily, or thought balloons or narrator notes, as comics, of course, have been known for over the years, although we've kind of gotten away from some of that stuff. But it is really kind of a refreshing and different take, and it's one that I have to say it's keeps me going for the story. And it's something that I look forward to seeing in future installments of Stellarlands. So, yeah, Stellarlands number 2, liked a lot. I'm going to go ahead and say more so than the first one. And it's something I encourage you, as a comic book reader, or maybe just somebody here, stop in and seeing what a jerk who is in his basement looks like right after work, to absorb. In fact, I just realized I forgot my hat. Now really for what I need you to do here. Stellarlands, as I've said, is an independent comic. It doesn't have the benefit of anything that the big three, to Image in there at the time, do as far as the funding, talent, and resources to push out. I shouldn't say talent, because this has got a lot of talent. For that reason, I'm going to ask you to go to the Kickstarter page for Stellarlands issues 1, 2, and 3. I'll link it here. And support this. Now, the book for the issue 3 is not in production yet, from what I understand. It won't be in production until a certain number of followers are behind it. And I think for that reason, it is important for us, even if you haven't read it, to support this. Let's face it, we all got into comics presumably by reading something from one of the big three. And at times, we'll say this, I think you'd agree with me, no character or no run has been perfect. Everybody has at least one issue where it's kind of like, eh. But I have a news flash. Spider-Man, Wolverine, Batman, Superman, if you're not enjoying their book and you're just collecting it out of habit, it's okay to put it down. These characters are going to be around for a while. They've been here since before you were born, and I'm sure they're going to be here well afterwards. And I know that might sound a bit contrarian for somebody who's a comic book fan, and somebody who's spent a fair amount of energy and time collecting X-Men and Wolverine comics. But my point is that if you don't buy the next issue of, let's say, Wolverine, that's fine. He's going to be back the following month. Every time an indie comic comes out, if it's not adequately supported, there's a good chance you're just never going to see that talent on display again. We're kind of lucky in this community. I'll say this. I'm not going to speak on behalf of the comic book YouTube community, because I just shouldn't do that. But I've been kind of lucky to have met a great number of independent artists and writers throughout my 4.5 or so years here on YouTube. Pat Hickey, of course, from Legacy. Brian LCS, his book, The Doctor. Again, the guys from Sci Nation. I'm looking over here because I have a lot of these indie books right here. Stellarlands, of course. Apollon, the Biophile guy, excuse me. Everybody I've had on here, really. I've made it a point not to talk about or bring on an indie creator unless I've enjoyed their work. Dismay Comics, another one that comes to mind. I'm sorry if I'm leaving anybody out. I'm just kind of riffing here. One thing that has impressed me about all of these people I've named, and some of the ones I haven't named, they had the sheer balls to just turn around and say, you know what? I have this idea and I want to get it out there. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to look good. I don't know if anybody's going to read it or buy it. I just want to get this story out there. Imagine how many stories out there just simply die on the vine. Stories that we've never read because the person who thought about it was too afraid to say, I'm going to try this. And honestly, if you think about it, the stories that we have read and that we've enjoyed would have never happened unless one person came along and said, hey, I have this idea, let me give it a shot. And by the way, when I'm talking about these people, just my own preference, I'm going to try not to go on a tangent. These are people who put pen to paper or fingers to typing on their own. They didn't type anything into a search engine. They didn't type anything into an AI chatbot or whatever and said, hey, I kind of have this idea, and let the computer do the rest. No. I'm talking about art done 100% by people, by humans. And you know what? Whether you're writing, whether you're drawing, whether you're singing, whether you're filmmaking, all of these things are art. Whether you're sitting here making YouTube videos, that's an art in itself. And what's unique about art is that even though you're showing a picture of a character or something like that, let's say, you're sharing a piece of yourself when you do that. You're sharing a piece of your heart, of your mind, of your soul. And that's something that AI can't do. But that is something that every single indie creator has done. They've taken this project, they didn't care. Isolation by Dave Bratton. Do you think he said, okay, let me just throw this into an engine? No. No. He had the balls, just like all these under indie creators, to sit down and say, hey, I'm just going to go for it. You put your blood on paper. And it's our job, I think, as comic book, let's say, appreciators, art appreciators, to say, you know what, let's keep this going, let's keep this flowing. Because honestly, at the end of the day, art is about culture. And I don't think that it's something that you should or can outsource to a machine. So please join me in going on Kickstarter and support Stellarlands issues 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to put a link in here, but you know what? Even if I didn't put a link for some reason, you just go on Kickstarter and search Stellarlands issues 1, 2, or 3. Even if you just type in Stellarlands, it's the first one that comes up. Support Max, support all his endeavors, and support all indie comics while I have you on the line here. Thanks for watching. I feel like I'm good now. I feel like I'm on a good track. This is a good place to end. Peace, love, and comics. Take care.